Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause a Buccaneer. Big stock defense Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot the cannon like a Buccaneer.
Great morning, great morning, great morning. It's 10 o'clock on the dot. We starting on time today. This morning you're mic'd up. Monday morning with yours truly, Michael Clayton, and I'm honored and blessed to be with you this morning for another great message. I think that we're getting into a good flow of things, and I'm learning how to conduct the podcast, and it's been an honor to work with DJ Anastasia, who has my back. Last week I was running a little late, and she was playing a little music. And she's always enlightening me on some new things, and it's an honor to work with my sister. Got a very special guest in the house later on in the show. We're going to be talking to Pastor Tommy Kyllonen, head pastor at Crossover Church. He's a very good friend of mine, doing a lot of great things in the community, and one of the points of having a show like this is to continue to pump out positive vibes into our community, to let you know what's going on, opportunities to get involved, and to make a difference. So you always know a person by the company that they keep, and I like to keep great people around me that hold me accountable, that inspire me to be a better man, and likewise and vice versa. I want to do the same for them. And Pastor Tommy has been a great friend of mine, and he's been in my corner and being that stabilizer, I like to say. So later on in the show, you'll get to meet him and talk about all the great things that they're doing at Crossover Church. All right, moving on. Let's start off with, for those who are tuning in for the first time, give you the format. I usually do. Last week, I just gave you Michael's message. We just was flowing, wasn't we, DJ Anastasia? We were just flowing.
We was flowing.
We was flowing.
Keep it flowing.
We didn't have too much mess last week. It was all about the message last week, but I thought it went good. But this week we're going to get back on track. And the flow of the show goes like this. I like to start off with a little bit of Michael's mess. I give you something that I've experienced, a negative experience that I was able to learn from. And then I follow it up with Michael's message, and I give you the message that I learned from it, and in hopes that it falls on good soil, on good ears, so that you can take my negative experiences and you can relate to them and take the message and apply it to your life so that you will be a better person. And then we follow up with our special guests, and then we give you guys an opportunity to call in and share some things with us. That number is 813-444-9588. That's 813-444-9588. Get the dial ready to call in, and you'll be able to chop it up with me and Tommy later on in the show. Now, a few things going on in the sports world. Last week, we all tuned in to watch Mike Tyson face Roy Jones Jr., and that was epic. You know, it was great to see Iron Mike back in the ring, man. And he was just amazing. At the age of 54, you know, how he looked, how he boxed, it was just inspiring to a young guy like myself at 38 that, hey, man, I still have an opportunity to look good at 54. So it was good to see Iron Mike and Roy Jones Jr. go at it. But another thing on the undercard was very interesting. And I was reading this morning that really ignited the message of what I want to talk about today. NBA star Nate Robinson goes into the ring against Jake Paul, who's this YouTube star. I never heard of Jake Paul, didn't know much about him. My kids know all about him. But I kind of did some Google search, and I understand, you know, his flow, how he makes a living. You know, he has millions and millions of followers on YouTube. So Nate Robinson is this NBA player, and we like to see people out of their element. So here you got this YouTube star fighting an NBA star on the undercard of a world star in Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. So everybody was tuning in. And what happened, man, was just, it was crazy. Because we live in a culture where we think, you know, black people got the upper hand on white people. We just, you know, we're going to beat you up just because of the color of our skin. But let me tell you this. It was a rude awakening. It was a rude awakening for my man, Nate Robinson. Jake Paul got the best of him. Obviously, Nate Robinson he didn't really respect the game of boxing, or he respected it as such, as a game. And boxing is not a game. It's a sport that you got to train for, or you will die in the ring. And that's literally what I thought almost happened to Nate Robinson. He got hit upside his head and he went down, and my man Jake Paul knocked him out. And what followed behind it was a lot of just negative comments about Nate Robinson and people just, kicking him when he's down. And I read this morning that Floyd Mayweather came to Nate Robinson's corner and kind of supported him. And what he said spoke volumes to me, and like I said, it's kind of what I want to get in today. Floyd Mayweather, one of the greatest fighters in the world, 50-0, came out and said, black athletes and entertainers should not be down-talking Nate Robinson. And I just saw a flood of comments, like just a lot of negativity and people just throwing shots at Nate Robinson, talking about him and blah, 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 blah. And then when when Floyd Mayweather steps out of the box and takes up for his boy and to support him and put some positive vibes and like, listen, man, I'm supporting you. I got your back. People start talking about Floyd Mayweather. Like, how you gonna speak when you beating up on women and all of this stuff? And then the negative comments start going at Floyd, going on at Floyd. And I'm reading this, and the thing that sparked this was because last week I had a conversation with someone that I truly love and I honor and respect. It's the reason why I'm the man that I am today. And I'm having this conversation with this person, and we're talking about Donald Trump. And I'm on the phone, and this person is just ripping Donald Trump, ripping. And, I learned a lot of my spiritual awareness from this person, and my spiritual antennas went up, and I'm like, you're not wrong about what you're saying. And a lot of people know you got your own perspective of how you feel about Donald Trump. But what was being said just ignited in my spirit that, wait. Christians aren't supposed to be talking like that. You call yourself a Christian, you just ain't supposed to be talking like that, because it's not about the truth that you're talking. It's about who's listening and who is learning from what you're saying. And I believe that's why the Bible says be slow to talk. So, because even though you have truth to speak, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to speak it. So I felt compelled to tell this person that I love, like, hey, man, pump your brakes a little bit. And we kind of got into a spout about what was true and what needs to be said. And they brought up all of these things that Donald Trump had did. And I just continued to just kind of lean on the word. And I know all of those things to be true. But I also know, and I truly believe, and this is just me, that God is in control. So even if there are things that we don't understand, that we don't agree with, if I believe in the word and I believe that God is in control, guess what? Those things had to happen to reveal other things that maybe we don't understand. And that's how I look at life. And I just, it was profound to me because this person that I love was saying this. And then I go this morning and I read all of these negative comments, and I just kind of wanted to touch on a few of those things. So what was on my spirit was just to Google the word gossip. All right. And what I feel like, we live in a world where we feel like we need to talk about every single negative thing. And this is what I've learned being on both sides, being a black man in the community, but having white friends, who may support Donald Trump, we're from two different walks of life, two different cultures. But me being in the middle, understanding, I see when people talk negative about people, it incites divisiveness. It incites the hatred. And it's crazy because To me, anything that I ever want, I just go to the Word of God and it gives it to me. And I just open up my book. And I love the book of Proverbs, because to me it's one of the greatest books that gives you knowledge on each and everything. And I read this scripture and it just kind of hit home. In Proverbs 26:20, it says, for lack of wood, the fire goes out, and where there is no whisperer, quarreling ceases. So I Googled the word gossip, and it's over 100 scriptures. If you're interested on controlling your tongue and how the blessings that come along with just remaining silent and not slandering people, regardless of if they do something bad or something that you just don't agree with, there's a blessing that comes along with keeping your mouth shut and not honoring your flesh that wants to lash out at people, but more so honoring the word of God that's telling you, you can start some heat by speaking. All right. A dishonest man spreads strife, and a whisperer separates close friends. The words of the book of Proverbs gives us all this. And I know it seems like every Monday MC get on the mic and I get to preaching to people. And I just want to tell y'all, listen, if you have a problem with it, I'm not sorry, but I got to do what's on my heart. I got to do what I feel is my purpose in life. And my only goal in life is to educate people and help people on their walk with the most important thing that I believe is a relationship with God. Now, everybody don't subscribe to that, and I understand that. That doesn't mean that I can't be a light in the world. Ephesians 4:29 says, let no corrupt talk come out of your mouth, but only such as is good for building up as fits the occasion, that may give grace to those who hear. I encourage all y'all to just kind of listen. If you got a problem with letting your tongue loose, talking bad about people, don't feed your flesh or what you want to say, what you want to do, but more so gain the self-control. Go to the word. See what the word has to say about it. If you call yourself a Christian or a believer in God, then it's necessary for you to do what the word does, so that that light that God puts in you can be broadcasted out to darkness, the people who need to see it, and they will be drawn towards your light. And for me, all right, I always want to carry that light around. So that's what I live in. So today it was on my heart to talk about fighting temptation and warring against the flesh. And I'd like to throw out a little disclaimer now, all right, that this episode just might not be for kids. So if you're tuning in and you're around your kids, you may want to grab some earphones. But if you trust me, I know that this message will also be beneficial to kids, especially young teens and young adults as well. So if you trust me, just allow the word to just go out and let them hear it. How much time we got? 34 seconds. So, hey, many people face temptation in many different forms. And I'm talking about people talking bad about people. I'm talking about lust for one another. I'm talking about drinking and smoking. I'm talking about eating. Some people got a little bit of extra around the waist. Talk about eating. Ain't always healthy. I'm talking about wilding out, shacking up. Ooh, that's going to strike a chord. And on and on and on and on and on. And out of my 30 years of life, I've realized that there's only one source that has helped me fight all of the temptation that I've faced in my life. And when we come back, we're going to get into Michael's mess and Michael's message. Y'all stay tuned.
Twelve shots on me like a buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm buccaneer. Big stock, deep face, buccaneer. Feel go good with the buccaneer. Want me shoot the cannon like a buccaneer. Buccaneer, buccaneer, buccaneer. One eye patch like a buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm buccaneer. Big stock, deep face, buccaneer. Feel go good with the buccaneer. Want me shoot the cannon like a buccaneer. Hello?
You've been injured, you deserve help from an attorney that knows how to handle your injury claim. This is attorney Clinton Paris from the law office of Clinton Paris. For over a decade, I worked for insurance companies, and now I use that knowledge and experience to help people that have been injured. For a free consultation, call me, attorney Clinton Paris, at 813-413-7924. That's 813-413-7924, or at parislawoffice.com. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt. Offices, Riverview.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all gotta see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
In Touch Radio, where you can listen to a cruising flow of smooth soul and jazz, today's R&B, a fun touch of hip-hop and gospel.
All my music on one station.
Giving you a buffet of music, news, and entertainment. We're In Touch Radio.
Tuning in Touch News. You're tuning in at In Touch News or on In Touch News. Let me get it right. You're mic'd up on Monday morning with Michael Clayton. Let's get into the message. Time is ticking. Today's message is all about fighting temptation or warring against the flesh. And I want to take y'all back to 2011. I was playing with the New York Giants. Anastasia, you ready for the message today?
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, tune in now. Listen.
I'm tuned in.
I'm scared now. Now, a lot of time, I've never talked about these things in the open, especially not on social media, where it once you put it on wax, once you put it on, it's out there. So I've never talked about these things, but one thing about me is, I want to be transparent. I think that it's very important for people to know who you are, know what you're going through, and that's how people learn from you. So here we go. The message is all about fighting temptation. And back in 2011, I had an experience that was eye-opening. So we're traveling with the group, my teammates, and, they want to hang out. And at this particular time in my life, I was going through a spiritual change. So everywhere I went, I carried my Bible. I'm reading the word every day. Guys are every day asking me, Mike, what's the good word for the day? And everything that God put in my spirit to read the night before was always 100% the message that person who asked me for a good word, that's what they needed to hear. So I was just going through this divine awareness, and I wanted to be locked into what God wanted me to do. Honestly, my focus wasn't on football. My focus was on living in my purpose, allowing God to use me so that I can be a benefit to the others around me. So at the same time, I was who I was. I was still a leader on the team, well respected, and the guys always wanted me around. To kind of give you a glimpse of how it was, people was calling me Rev around the building, all right, in New York, all right? Now, I'm not a reverend, all right? I'm not a reverend. I do come in reverence. I'm not a reverend. I'm not ordained or none of that, all right? And don't want to be. I want to be me, or what God makes me, or what God makes me, that's who I want to be. And I say, and nothing's wrong with being a pastor or reverend. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this is me. But people were calling me a reverend. So we're going out one day, And I told y'all earlier, a few episodes before, about, how I told the team, this is going to be the year we win a Super Bowl. We got to be better fathers. We got to be better teammates. We got to hold each other accountable. We got to stop our vices. We can't stop our vices overnight. You got to continue to saw away at your vices little bit at a time, and eventually we'll have a breakthrough. So I'm ministering and talking to my guys every single day, all right, every single day. And now when they want to go out, like, I'm not shying away from not going out. Like, these are my guys, and I'm a protector. So one day they want to go. We go out to a little a lounge, and we're hanging out, and then we're all together. And one of the guys said, "Hey man, let's go to a gentleman's spot." All right, y'all know what I mean by a gentleman's spot. So I'm warned in my mind, like, I ain't supposed to be in here. I don't want to do that. People calling me reverend, and I don't want to give off this wrong interpretation of what a man of God looks like. I didn't want to do it, and I'm warned about it. And God put in my spirit, somebody in that spot needs you too. So I'm thinking to myself, man, all right, good deal. Because I know you ain't never going to find a pastor in a gentleman's spot. Never. You should never find him. But a person like myself, all right, I don't have those limitations. So I listen to my spirit. I go up in there with the boys. They sit off in their section. They're having a good time, and I sit on the other side of the room by myself. I got my head down. I'm kind of watching them, making sure that they're safe and everything. And we were in the spot about 30 minutes, and there was no music. They had a problem with the audio system. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm just kind of praying, and I'm like, God, you said somebody in here may need to speak to me, and da-da-da-da-da. So I'm just sitting there waiting. About 30 minutes later, soon as 30 minutes hit, the music dropped. Boom! And all of a sudden, it just get crunk in the spot. Everybody having fun. They're having a good time. And I'm sitting over there in the cut watching. And this young lady comes up to me, and she sits next to me, and she says, "You different." And immediately I started saying, okay, God, that's what you were talking about. This person that I needed to talk to, thank you for sending them to me. So now here the ministering begins. So I say, what do you mean by that? She says, you different. And I used to wear this cross on my neck, and I was like, I pulled the cross out, and I said, this is what you see? And she said, no, that ain't what I see. And I said, no, honey, this is what you see. I'm a man of God. And I just started to talk to her and minister to her like, you better than this. You don't need to be doing this, getting her history. And she just was in tears, and she was crying. And I was happy that God allowed me to gain the strength to not be scared to go into dark places and minister to people. So after I'm talking to this young lady for about 2 hours, I reach in my pocket. She ain't made no money. She just sitting there. She listening to me. I reach in my pocket. I give her a few $100s just because I know that, hey, you got to pay your bills. You ain't made no money tonight. You were listening to your brother minister to you. And so I took care of her financially. And in a blink of an eye, this is what happened to me. And see, this situation wasn't about who I was ministering to. This situation was all about me. In a blink of an eye, something came upon me, and I said to the young lady, give me your number so that I can keep in touch with you and follow up. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Deep inside of me, I was warring with something inside. On the outside, I was doing what my heart was leading me to do, but on the inside, I was still attracted to this lady. And in a blink of an eye, I was about to get weak. I'm not about to get weak. I got weak, and I was trying to set something up. Now, I'm married at the time. I'm a faithful man, and I war against this on a daily basis, and I'm successful in my war. But right there in this moment, I got weak, and I asked this young lady for a phone number. And she looked at me, and she says, no. She shook her head no, and she says, you too good. And it all just hit me. Oh, my goodness. It hit me. That even when you try to present yourself as a man of God, that you're still not perfect. But when you present yourself with the man of God, it's not the power that's in you. The power that's in God will allow a protection to be upon you. So God's word, everything that I said to this young lady protected me in that moment from myself. I got weak, but everything that I said to her ignited something in her where she could not let a man of God fall down or go down the wayside, because to be honest with you, she probably knew what I was trying to set up. Now, I like to say I'm a good-looking brother. I know she was attracted to me too. But she said to me, "No, I can't do it. You too good." And I immediately recognized that how weak men of God can be in a blink of an eye. And it was a learning experience for me. And this was in 2011. And ever since that day, I've never disrespected God like that, because I know that sometimes females are attracted to a powerful man of God, and how that can lead to other things. We hear a lot of pastors going through things because they get weak, and it happens. So you got to be able to allow God to be your protection. You got to understand your weaknesses, and hey, we all go through it. The great thing is God does not keep a track of your wrongdoings. When you believe in him, all right, it's erased. You have a repentant heart, and that's all that's required to get God's favor. And this goes on. Like how we talk about temptation, it goes on, all right? When at one point in my life, I was, I'm married for years and years and years, and we all know the story about Kirk Franklin. Well, Kirk Franklin wasn't alone. All right, as men, we all go through things like that where we get a little sexual proudness, and we start exploring things on the internet when we not really fulfilled the way that we desire to be fulfilled. And I struggled with watching pornography for a while. And here I am talking out in the public, but I'm dealing with demons locked in my own home. I'm dealing with demons. And the only thing that brought me out of that was because I refused to let my flesh win. I refused to let my flesh win. I felt like I lost my power. I felt like I lost my word, that everything that God given me, I felt like I lost when I gave into my flesh. So I decided not to ever do that again. The same thing with me, all right, happened when smoking weed. I know there's a lot of people who indulge in that, and now in this day we live in a different day. It's a medicine now. But when I was 14, I used to indulge in those things every weekend. My parents didn't know, all right, and I was addicted. I didn't smoke weed not one time in college, but when I got to the pros, it's how I dealt with pain. But when you walking in purpose, God is going to put things on your life, or some things that you got to let go. And now I can talk about these things because I've been able to man up and let those things go. All of my friends that, I hang out with that might be indulged, they be like, "Mike, let's put one in the air." I'm happy. I said, "Nah, bro, I don't do that no more." They're like, "What? You? What?" Yeah, man. You know why? Because I'm a changed man. And I've seen the favor that God has brought in my life by letting those things go, fighting temptation. And I want to share this with you before we bring in Pastor Tommy from Crossover Church. And it's all about the message. Here's the message. Listen, we all go through things. I was reading in the Bible where, back in the day, the Bible instructed us not to eat pork, eat pig. And there's many scriptures that you can read that interprets the word in a different way, just like divorce. In the beginning, Jesus said, in the beginning, God did not like divorce. It wasn't so. Then Moses came along and changed the law. But Jesus told you, in the beginning, it was not so. God hates divorce. So when I was reading these scriptures about pork, I felt the same way. Yes, maybe times have changed. Maybe things have changed. Maybe it's okay to eat pork now. But in the beginning, at one point, it was not so. So I decided to stop eating pork. People called me a Muslim. People said that I was losing my faith. And I grew up on pork. I love bacon, pepperoni pizza. I didn't realize how much stuff in this world it has pork, all right? And when I stopped eating pork, my spiritual awareness grew even more. And I was able to kind of control a lot of things in my life. And when we come back, we're going to talk about a man that has a lot of self-control to the point to where he's been able to minister to thousands and thousands of people. When we come back, we'll be talking with Pastor Tony Kyllonen when we return. Y'all stay with me.
Woman shoot a cannon like a buccaneer. Hello?
We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan. We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
How to find each other.
The whole experience was fine.
The most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
When it comes to reality radio, everyone is a star.
Shining star for you to see what your life can truly be.
On your smooth soul and R&B station.
On the World Wide Web.
In Touch Radio.
Great morning, great morning. We're about to wrap up, headed to the end of the show. And we just got out of the segment talking about Michael's mess, facing temptation, wilding out, lust for one another, all of these things. And I gave you a little story about what I experienced. And I kind of closed it out by telling you, you know, I got my spiritual awareness really went to another level when I decided to stop eating pork. Now, I want everybody to know, stop eating pork ain't going to get you to heaven, all right? I promise you that. All right, it's a lot more things that are required. But when I decided to stop eating pork, it allowed me to see how much I desired to eat the ribs. All right, and I had to cut that out in my life. The gumbo. I'm from Louisiana. I want to eat a gumbo, shrimps and crawfish, and I want to eat all of that. Man, but when you put your body through, you know, denying what it wants for, you know, to please God, I like to say, to please God, all right? Now, there are some things, hey, man, like it could not be pleasing to God. I don't know. I really don't know. But all I know is what I learned from it is another spiritual awareness that has kept me an honest man, and it's made me a better man. And so I just like to put those things in the airwaves. Our third segment here, we got our special guest, Pastor Tommy Kyllonen. He's been pastoring in the area for over 20 years. I've fellowshiped with him at Crossover Church. When I travel in the inner city, a lot of times having to pick up kids to give them jobs, and you know, this was before Corona and all of that stuff, helping young kids out. I would always send the youth to Crossover Church because when they would get in my car, they would always hear me listening to Christian rap. And they would all be like, Mr. Mike, who is that? Who is that? Who is that? And so I knew that this genre of music could be beneficial to our young people because even in myself, all I wanted to do was feel a beat. But it's the words that are the most important thing, making sure that you're listening to things that don't hinder your spirit, but help your spirit and enlightens your spirit. So I like to keep it positive listening to Christian rap. And Pastor Tommy Kyllonen, a.k.a. Urban D, is a producer of Christian rap music and has a lot of good friends in that genre of music. I wanted to bring him on the show to kind of enlighten you guys and talk about some of the things that was on his heart heavily. Pastor Tommy, thank you for joining us today. Hey man, we've been able to build our relationship, man, and I've seen so many things that you're doing at Crossover Church. Just kind of start off with just introducing, for those who don't know who you are, what you do. Talk about the ministry and how your outreach programs go.
Yeah, man. Well, I've been here in Tampa now. Believe it or not, it's gonna actually be 25 years, man. In January, almost in January.
Quarter century.
Quarter century, man. A big chunk of my life. Originally from Philly, but God brought me here, me and my wife, back in '96, and I came to Crossover Church to be the youth pastor, and that was my vision. I'm just gonna be the youth pastor till I die, working with teens, and I also was doing music, and grew up in the hip hop culture, and so I started using that for God. And ended up getting signed to a record label, national record label. And so that opened up doors for me to travel quite a bit around the country and even to several other countries. And so really, as I was doing the youth ministry at a small urban church, me doing my music, that's really what provided for my family. And I was almost like a glorified volunteer at the church. But we ministered to kids through basketball leagues, hip-hop concerts, and soon the youth ministry grew to hundreds, which was actually much larger than the adult population at the church. And so then in '02, I got pushed into being the pastor. I wasn't looking for it, didn't want to do that. Maybe someday, when I got old or something. But the pastors kept resigning every couple of years at the church because they were bivocational. And they would get burned out. And they'd always ask me, hey, you want to take over? I'd be like, nah, I'm good. I'm rapping. I'm doing the youth ministry. I'm wearing a lot of hats already. And but anyways, in '02, I stepped into that role. And my attitude at first was just like, I'll do this for a little while till we find the next guy. Right. I'll fill in the gap. But a few months into it, I realized oh, wow, I think we found him. I'm the guy. Yeah. I'm supposed to do this. So took over as the lead pastor. And I think one of the biggest assets we had, I always like to say this, is we had freedom to recreate what the urban church could look like, to reach a multi-ethnic crowd that's, influenced by urban culture, hip-hop culture, all those things. And so we began to kind of reshape, carefully and prayerfully what church could look like. And we began to grow and reach new people for Christ, and so much that we had to add services and different times. And then eventually, as you know, we relocated to the old Toys R Us building. If you're from Tampa for a minute, you remember you used to shop at Toys R Us on Fowler. And we actually took over that building. We just celebrated 10 years that we've been there. We retrofitted that, and that's where the church is at now.
Now, here's a question for you, because, I grew up in a Baptist church, and my grandfather was a pastor. And, as I learned more about religion and spiritual things and actually reading the Word, I understood that traditionalism has always been a part of Christianity. Was there anything that you were scared about because you were going against the grain, creating this new culture of delivering the Word of God? Was there any fears in you? Were you scared of how the traditional church would receive you? Because I know that there had to be negative talk, because that's the world we live in. Yeah, even the people who are delivering the Word going to try to kick you and keep you down. Were you not, I shouldn't say afraid or scared, but were you worried about how people looked at you starting your ministry like this?
Yeah, I grew up as a pastor's kid, so I grew up around church as well. Grew up in a more of a Assemblies of God Pentecostal type of environment up in Philly, and it was more traditional. That's what church was. You dressed up, you had to wear dress clothes, and it was just a certain vibe. So to be able to come and wear your sneakers, and to have a DJ on the stage, and to have somebody spit a little 16 bar in the middle of a worship song on a Sunday. Can we do that? So I even had my questions we did that at youth service, but now can we do this with the adults? Are any adults even going to come? Right. And so yeah, man, we did get some hate mail. There were some people that usually those people would never confront you face to face. They would just talk about you like you talked about gossip
Yeah.
in the earlier session. And you'd hear through the grapevine, or, I had some people send me letters. But overwhelmingly, there was so many more people that were positive, that were grateful for what we did. Even if it wasn't their cup of tea or their style, they saw that it was being effective, that we were reaching young people for Christ, that there was true transformation happening in their lives. It wasn't just like we're growing a crowd, but there was people really with life change. And the crazy thing was, we had a lot of teenagers and young adults that were becoming solid Christians, and they were reaching their parents.
Yeah.
They were bringing their parents to church.
They was on fire.
It's usually
about
the flip-flop way, right? They're
right.
dragging their teenagers to
Right.
church. Like, we had our entire youth ministry. There wasn't really a single kid that was made to come.
Yeah.
They wanted to be there. And so, yeah.
One thing that kind of just, when I first met you, it was a term that was just broadcasted on your shirts. I think it was the name of your book. It was the word rebuild.
Yeah.
And when I look at the term rebuild, you look at, yes, rebuild, you picture a nice, beautiful project after the fact. But the underlying meaning of rebuild is something was destroyed.
Mhm.
All right. And to me, that was my purpose in life, to reach those people who have been destroyed by chaos in their life, regardless of what it is, and to be a vessel to rebuild. Talk a little bit before we go into our next segment about like what led you to kind of capture that word and utilize it and kind of bring rebuild into life with a message, with a vision, and with a mission.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that's what we did with the church. The church was small. It had always struggled. It wasn't, but we came in and, by God's help and his guiding and directing, breathed in new life. We began to rebuild it. Even literally the building was falling apart.
Right.
The roof was leaking. There was all kinds of issues, even with the physical building, but then spiritually and all those other things as well. And so that's what we did at the old location. But then even greater than that, when we moved to the Toys R Us building, I mean, that building was just an empty shell. There was nothing inside of it. And when you walked in the front doors, you could see the concrete walls all the way around. And it was just, the poles and the old tile floor and a couple areas of carpet. And there was like dead bugs everywhere, dirt and dust. And so we literally went in there and rebuilt 43,000 square feet. And so that was a massive undertaking for us. And so as we were rebuilding lives, spiritually, we were also rebuilding these, this worship space. And, giving it a new purpose.
Yeah. Now, what are some of the challenges of big ministry? And I know nothing's ever perfect, and people don't hear about, what it takes to run a ministry the size of yours. Like, what are some of those challenges right now in the time of COVID?
Yeah, I think right now, specifically in 2020, it's challenging because we did reopen in October. We waited for a long time, and we reopened in a very
wanted to do it the right way.
Yeah, in a safe way. All of our seats are social distance. Like truly, we got out the measuring tape. Every little section of seats is 6 feet away from. So if you come in a 3-seater, a 4-seater, or a 2-seat, like they're all like super spread out. We took out more than 2/3 of the chairs in our auditorium. It could seat 700. We only have 225 seats in there. And we require people to wear masks. And so all that to say, over 50% have come back of the weekly attendance. Probably about 70 or 80% have come back at one point in the last few months. But there's a lot of people that aren't in the room. They're worshiping online. And we did that just everybody for 7 months. But, I think one of the challenges is being able to stay connected with everybody and touch everybody, because now we have this hybrid church. We're in person and we're online, and then there's some people that are doing both. And so trying to keep everybody connected, because community is the glue, and it's been hard to have community in an age of social distance.
Yeah. Well, I say like this, in a time of COVID, you got all the time in the world to connect with your church, to connect with your pastors. Don't put the onus on the pastor or the church. This is a great opportunity for those who are itching to get spiritual awareness, for you to reach out, man, and stay connected. When we come back, we're going to wrap up. Y'all get the phone lines ready. That number is 813-444-9588. If you want to call in, talk to me and Pastor Tommy, you can do so in our next segment. Y'all stay still.
patch like a buccaneer. How you in the ship, you ain't a buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm buccaneer. Big stock, deep face, buccaneer. Feel go good with the buccaneer. Want me shoot a cannon like a buccaneer. Buccaneer, buccaneer, buccaneer.
By now, we're all aware of the dangers of COVID-19. Like others with existing health issues, cancer patients are at a high risk due to their compromised condition. If you are newly diagnosed with cancer, your care likely can't wait. Moffitt Cancer Center is the best place for your cancer concerns and to provide guidance to help you plan your next steps. We're here for you. Call 1-888-456-2839 or go to moffitt.org/here-for-you.
It's a beautiful day.
This is Daryl Johnson
And Tampa Bay Tammy.
wishing all our listeners all over the world
Happy holidays.
happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
From In Touch News
and radio. You've been injured, you deserve help from an attorney that knows how to handle your injury claim. This is attorney Clinton Paris from the law office of Clinton Paris. For over a decade, I worked for insurance companies, and now I use that knowledge and experience to help people that have been injured. For a free consultation, call me, attorney Clinton Paris, at 813-413-7924. That's 813-413-7924, or at parislawoffice.com. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt. Offices, Riverview.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to a good friend of mine.
It's the Dash and Dale Day.
Put your hands together.
Jazz at Miss Connie's house. On In Touch Radio.
Great morning. Hey, it's still morning. But if you're just waking up, guess what? You ain't getting no worms. All right? You ain't getting no worms. All right? No protein. All right? We need protein to survive, baby. You got to get up early. Get your life rocking. We're in the last segment of Mic'd Up on Monday Mornings with yours truly, Michael Clayton. We got Pastor Tommy Kyllonen from Crossover Church in the booth with me. We talked a minute about rebuild, but we also want to talk about reinventing yourself. And before we get to that, we got a caller coming in. Hello, you are Mic'd Up on Monday Morning with yours truly, Michael Clayton and Pastor Tommy Kyllonen. Who do we have the pleasure of speaking with today?
My name is Trey Johnson, man, tuning in all the way from Denver, Colorado, man, enjoying the show.
That's love, man. That's love. What you got for us today, Trey?
My big fan, obviously, Michael Clayton, so I want to say hello to you and Pastor. Thanks for the words you guys have shared so far. My question is about, you guys were just talking about the changes in COVID and how COVID impacted some of the decisions that you have had to make, you know, in terms of social distancing and resetting up and that kind of thing. Was there anything that came, Michael, you were also just talking about when COVID came, now people have plenty of time, you know, to reach out to spiritual leaders and that kind of thing. So my question for you, Pastor, is, was there anything as a result of COVID that was actually beneficial for you? Like in spite of the negative COVID, what was kind of the silver lining that came through it all?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. What's up, bro? So for us, we, you know, like I said, to try to stay connected to community, our team got very creative, and we just began to really create a lot of content that we did on our Facebook page, our YouTube page, and in specific on our Facebook page, we started doing a lot of lives. So we do a noonday devotional every day at noon, Monday through Friday, and different staff members do that. We'll have like a scripture of the week, and man, we'll have hundreds and hundreds of people that tune in on that, and lots of comments. And we've gained a lot of different people from around the country that started watching our services and tuning in as well, from other cities and other states, because a lot of other places are still 100% closed, and we were 100%, you know, physically closed as well. So we just we grew, and our impact continued to reach people even outside of the Tampa Bay area. And so that was a beautiful thing. And you know, we had people that went through our membership class virtually. We had people that we did a lot of outreach in our community. We do a grocery drive-through. I think we're going to talk about that in a minute. So we've been able to meet a lot of needs. The silver lining has been we've been serving our community more than ever and reaching more people more than ever.
And for me, Trey, what I saw from the outside looking in, when COVID first hit, you know, I called Pastor and I was like, hey, man, what y'all doing over there? You know, y'all feeding people. And it's like, when chaos hits, you're looking for your leaders to step up. And the reality is like people ain't had no toilet paper. All right, people ain't had nothing to eat. And it's like, you know, who you going to depend on now? All right, who has the money now to step up and fulfill a need right now? And Pastor Tommy and Crossover Church, in a major way, since the pandemic hit, every Friday?
We moved it to Wednesdays now. We feed about 800 to 1,000 families every Wednesday. We partner with Feeding Tampa Bay.
Every Wednesday. So having the volunteers to kind of execute that in a major way, in my eyes, it's like, you know, sometimes that's like the worm on the end of the hook trying to reel people in. You may not even want no spiritual word, but you got to eat. And now where you going to every Wednesday, you know, you depended on this church, and that just may open a door for someone to build that relationship with God, man. And I like I mentioned, I said, man, in this time of COVID, I've read my Bible more in the past 8 months than I have in the past 8 years, because I understand that if you one with God, he going to protect you no matter what in the midst, and you got to know how to operate. So in this crazy time, I wanted to teach my family how to operate in peace in a world that is now worrying about everything. And I've created a business, man. I got my business on and popping, cleaning roofs every day. I now have, you know, a different job that gives me financial stability. And it's like, man, this ain't come from nothing, man. This all came from God. It was all orchestrated in my eyes to kind of just weed out the people who are really serious about him, to give leaders an opportunity to step up and trust and build your faith. And then it's like the best will survive this. The strong will survive this, and you're gonna know who your true leaders are, man. But Trey, thank you so much, man, for calling in. Shouts out to you in Denver, you say?
Yes, sir. Mile High City.
Yeah,
yes,
man,
sir.
Mile High City. I know you need your jacket on today, baby. It's cold out there, man. Yeah, see, I don't do the cold weather, man. You stay warm out there, man. I appreciate you calling in.
Yes, sir. Well done, man. Salute to you, brother. Thanks again.
Trey, bless you, man.
And I wanted to get in real quickly before we close out the show, Tommy. We talked about the rebuild, but you know, you are a guy like me who likes to use alliteration.
Yeah.
All right, and I see that you like to use the R, you know what I mean?
Yes,
and those are a lot of things that are in your messages using the R. So just kind of run that off to us and let us know what's going on at Crossover.
Yeah, I think this has been a year for all of us that we've had to reinvent. That's an R right there. And like none of us saw this crisis coming, and boom. I mean, we all think back to January. We're at the last month of the year, but think back to the first month of the year. We all had visions for 2020, new year, new decade, going to be the best year ever. We had no idea what was around the corner. So a lot of us, man, we had to reinvent ourselves. We had to reinvent the way we work. A lot of people working from home had to reinvent the way the kids go to school.
Yeah.
You know, we had to reinvent the way we go to church, the way that we shop, the way all these different things. We've had to reinvent ourselves. And a lot of us, man, we've had to reinvent even our careers. Or like yourself, you just launched this business. Myself, I'm a pastor, but I travel and speak regularly at other churches and conferences and train leaders. And I had my schedule was like booming this year. I had a great calendar of like all these great places I was going to go to and train people. And the beginning of March hit, and whoop, you know, everything was like gone. And so I did even reinvent myself and begin to say, okay, I'm going to create content online and create some online courses and train people that way and connect with people online. And so biblically, you know, I look back at Nehemiah, and that goes with the other R, rebuild. And Nehemiah was called to go and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. But think about it, he had to reinvent himself because he was a cupbearer. And we don't have cupbearers nowadays, but cupbearers, they were the people that, he was a cupbearer to the king. If somebody wanted to kill the king or take the king out, he'd try to poison him. So literally this dude would have to try whatever the king was going to drink, whatever he was going to eat. And if he didn't croak in about 15 minutes, then the king could eat, right? So this brother was eating good, man. Yeah. He was drinking good. But, you know, it was a risky job.
Yes.
He probably had a good life insurance policy.
Yeah.
But anyways, man, so that's what he did. That's all he knew. He didn't know anything about rebuilding a whole city, rebuilding a whole tribe of people. And so, but this dude comes along, one of his relatives came back from Jerusalem because some of the people were allowed to go back previously. And so he said, hey, man, how's it going in Jerusalem? And this guy began to tell him, man, it's bad. There's a crisis. There's famine. I mean, the walls are broken down in the city. It's disgraceful. People are starving. The economy's rocked. There's no jobs. And so instead of him doing the Christian thing of like, hey, I'll pray for you, Mike.
Right.
Yeah, hey, good luck with that, bro. I'm over here chilling in the palace. Like, nah, man. God broke his heart with compassion. We see that in Nehemiah chapter 1. And he prayed and fasted for months. Scholars say it was like 3 or 4 months. And he repented for himself, his family, his nation. And a result of that, man, he reinvented himself.
Yeah.
This crisis came in front of him, and he said, man, I'm going to be a construction foreman now. I'm going to go clean roofs.
Yeah,
I'm going to figure out what's next in this next season.
Absolutely.
And then that last R that I talked about, so reinvent, rebuild, and then rhythm. Like in 2021, all of us, we got to get in this new rhythm now, this new normal. And God pressed the reset button, another R, right? We got to get in this rhythm now because we were out of rhythm. A lot of us were out of sync with God's plan for our life. So he pressed the reset button. I'm not saying he caused COVID, but he allowed these things to happen. He can turn what the enemy meant for evil and turn it for good. And so now in 2021, we got to get in rhythm. We got to get in sync. We got to get in step with what God has for our lives. And so, so I'm optimistic, man. I'm hopeful for 2021 to see what God's going to do as we come out of this pandemic.
The best is yet to come. If you're tuning in, you can dial the number on your screen, 813-444-9588. We got about 3 to 4 minutes left. You tune in. And Tommy, you just said something that just kind of registered in my heart. And you said, we are God's hand. You said, well, I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for you.
Yeah.
And we as believers, traditionally, we think that God moves invincibly. Blah, blah, blah. How you say that word, Anastasia? Invincibly.
He's making up words.
I could do that. You think that God moves and just, it's like, God moves, in my opinion, with people, through people. He operates through people. We are his hands and feet.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't move, then God won't move. If somebody is starving and you don't take the initiative to show them who God is, then that person may not ever meet God. But it will take a person, it will take flesh to operate in the world. God will use his spirit to overcome the flesh, and the flesh has to do the work. So it's our responsibility to be God's hands and feet. Don't just pray for people. All right? It's more than just that. You got to move for people. You got to work for people. You got to serve people. You got to be God's hands and feet. And that's how people are going to get to know who God is.
Mm-hmm.
All right? We're coming to a close. Tommy, listen, I want to thank you, man, for everything that you do. I want to just do a quick mention about Love Our City Week. I know that it's past, right?
Well, we didn't do it this year because it was going to be. It was right in the middle of the lockdown in April. But we are definitely doing it in 2021, even if we're still in COVID. There's ways that we can do projects outside and social distance, and like we've been doing the grocery drive-through every week, and a number of different initiatives that we've been doing for first responders, and we're doing this thing right now for single moms in the North Tampa area. We're doing this big thing for foster kids. So there's a number of different partnerships that we've developed during this time, even more than we had before.
Right. And that's one of the good things that has come about.
That's our silver lining that Trey was
shout
talking
out
about.
to Trey. And, as we wrap up, for those who don't know what Love Our City Week is, when Crossover Church literally designates a week to do acts of kindness. I think you gave me a number over what?
Yeah,
5,000 or
we had over 1,500 people. Last time we did it, we did 152 projects that year.
And that's just when they paying people gas money, buying them groceries. It's just like you got this massive surge of people serving for the body of Christ, and it's all from Crossover Church. If you are listening to this show and you need somewhere to worship, you need somewhere to gain knowledge, to be mentored, they have many programs at Crossover Church where you can visit them online. You can visit the church. I don't know if you got to call in and reserve your seat.
No.
All right, but they do the social distancing thing. Remember, you got to wear a mask. Want to take care of everybody who approaches and comes to Crossover to fellowship. And there's many opportunities to become one connected with God. And I tell everybody, man, listen, God is taking away a lot of the distractions in life. clubs are shut down. Places that usually own your flesh, all right, are being shut down, including a lot of churches. And now people have to take the initiative to become one with God. And when you do that, I know that favor and blessings will come out of that. So thank y'all for tuning in to Mic'd Up on Monday mornings with yours truly, Michael Clayton. We will see you next week. Blessings to my girl Anastasia for holding us down, and blessings to you too, a.k.a. Urban
Peace.
D,
God bless
Pastor
y'all.
Tommy Kyllonen from Crossover Church. We will see y'all next Monday.
Like a buccaneer.